Good morning, folks. This is Dom Tube. Today, uh, I want to do a version two of this TV deal that I put out earlier, or you would call it a revised version of the previous video I did about TV deals that are in place as of November 2022. Because I realized that when I did the video, I sounded like I was all over the place or sounded incoherent at times. I want to apologize about all that. I just want to be able to provide the best content I can and become transparent with y'all with my sources so people know where I'm getting the numbers at and where everything is coming from, this, that, and the other, not just numbers and thoughts I just made up in my head. And but I can see sometimes that my mind and thinks and moves faster than my fingers and mouth can move, and it showed. So today I want to go over the TV deals and the Power Five and the conundrum that Notre Dame is in. We're gonna start with the ACC, but first, if you like the content I'm producing, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. It'll help out with the algorithm. Share it, however you want to do it. My goal is to try to get 1,000 subscribers, and I can't do it without y'all. So I know we could do it together. So, anyways, and full disclaimer here, the numbers about to put out here are just baseline TV numbers coming from ESPN, Fox, whoever, not including any kind of tier 3 rights that each conference may or may not get. Those numbers are variable, so I can't really give you a solid number on that because each of the entities pay out differently, such as the NCAA tournament and college playoff. Those entities, they pay out differently, and trying to find numbers of that, it varies based off how many teams get in and how far they get, and it's just all over the place. So, anyways, let's get into it. The ACC currently is in the middle of a 20-year deal. Can you believe it? Not 20 years. They signed it in 2016 with ESPN that is set to expire in 2036. That pays out $240 million to each conference member, unless they happen to add Notre Dame, which that's the part of the escalation clause they have built into the contract as a football member. Now Notre Dame's already a member in basketball. That's a whole another story, and we'll get to it when we get to Notre Dame. The controversy is swirling with the ACCs. The big brands such as Clemson, Florida State, Miami, North Carolina, all those big brand schools, they're getting mad that the SEC and the Big Ten are making much more money than they are, and they feel cheated by the granted rights agreement that the ACC signed with ESPN. However, the exit fee to leave the ACC is $52 million for each member, which people say, well, why don't they just leave right now? They can afford that. Especially if they go to a SEC or a Big Ten, they'll make that up in 1 year. Well, there's another layer to this onion that people don't think of. Each school has its own media rights. So what they do is they sell their media rights to the conference they're affiliated with, and then the conference in turn negotiates on their behalf with the TV partners such as ESPN and Fox. That's where this $240 million comes in, is that ACC is getting $240 million each year from ESPN for ESPN to broadcast ACC schools. So let's just say Clemson, Florida State, or that's what they call the granted rights agreement. So let's just say Clemson or Florida State wanted to leave right now in 2022. They would forfeit the media rights money they would get from the ACC, in addition to paying an exit fee, meaning that the members would have to pay nearly $300 million per school. So that's the biggest discouraging factor from schools leaving the ACC to go to the SEC or the Big Ten, is that they would have to pay up $300 million. That's just baseline numbers right here. Now the ACC can make teams, especially like a Clemson or Florida State, they can make them pay more to leave because they know the ACC knows those are big brands in football, and like a North Carolina's big brand in basketball. So we're going to go to the Big 12. The Big 12 just agreed to a brand new deal, like within a month ago, to get there's a brand new deal for 6 years, $2.28 billion with ESPN and Fox. It's pretty shocking there, as the Big 12 has been losing traction ever since they lost Oklahoma and Texas. Everybody thought at one point the Big 12 was going to disappear and they were going to get picked apart by the Pac-12, the Big 10, ACC. No, now not only they've grouped together, but they've added 4 more schools that's set to join the conference in 2023, which are BYU, UCF, Houston, and Cincinnati. And they may be on the table to adding more teams in the future. Just like right now, there's talks between Gonzaga University and the Big 12 commissioner about Gonzaga possibly joining the Big 12 for basketball. If that happens, that would be huge for Big 12. As you add a big brand like Gonzaga and the Pacific Northwest, which is kind of lead me down a conspiracy theory rabbit hole that they may go after Oregon and Washington next. Now, the chances of them landing Oregon and Washington, I don't think are as great as them landing Gonzaga, but I digress. So we're going to get into it. The TV deal with the Big 12 with ESPN and Fox is that ESPN will get the first stake in the game while Fox gets basically second dibs along, but Fox will also get a substantial stake in the college basketball lineup, which means that the Big 12 will get around $380 million, an uptick from getting $230 million from the previous TV deal. So that is an increase of money there, and what it breaks down to is $31 million a year, but that could also change as well. We don't really know all the details with these TV contracts. We're going off of journalists, and some of these TV deals are prorated, as you'll find out later on in the video, that the payouts they get steadily bigger and bigger and bigger as the TV deal goes further along. This TV deal is going to begin in 2025 and going to expire 2031. And as I mentioned before, this $31 million a year per school is pretty tentative. This isn't counting if the schools make the NCAA tournament or the college playoff, as they get extra money with that as they sell their Tier 3 rights to the college playoff. Or in some conferences, the networks themselves sell their Tier 3 rights for them, such as the Big 12 and the ACC, and even the Big 10 and SEC. Now, we're going to get into the Big 10 now. The Big 10 also signed a brand new deal as well. It was probably about a couple months ago, but anyways, they have recently agreed to a deal of 7 years, $7 billion that's set to start in 2023 and expire in 2030. The distribution of the money will be prorated, meaning the payout will get bigger and bigger the further along they get on the deal, to the point that they would be getting anywhere from $80 million to $100 million a year, depending on the brand and depending on the Tier 3 rights. This deal will include Fox, CBS, and NBC, and it will end a 40-year relationship with the Big Ten at ESPN and ABC, which the Big Ten, by rumor mill, rejected a 7-year, $380 million deal from ESPN. From the details I was able to find, starting next year, Fox will get the first choice on which games they want to broadcast on its noon slate of games, or as known as their Big Noon Kickoff, which games they want to broadcast on the Big Ten Network. Or not only that, but they also get first choice on 3:30 games, 7 o'clock games. All until they get first priority. And they also get first priority, or Fox will also get the Big Ten Network, what is broadcast on the Big Ten Network, which Fox has a majority stake in the network. So you kind of see why they get first take on the Big Ten Network. CBS will carry some of the games in 2023, but will increase its presence in 2024 when the SEC leaves. We'll get more into detail about that later in the video with the 3:30 time slot. And NBC will have a brand new show, I guess you would call it, a brand new marketing campaign called the Big Ten Saturday Night on prime time, whenever Notre Dame is not on NBC that week. And the weeks that Notre Dame is on NBC, the Big Ten games will move to Peacock, which is NBC's streaming service. What that tells me is that where Notre Dame is on the road that week, they will broadcast the games on big NBC. And now if Notre Dame is at home that week, or takes up more specifically, if Notre Dame takes up a 7 o'clock slot, the games will go on Peacock, or any leftover games that CBS or Fox didn't want from the Big Ten. They'll go to NBC or Peacock. The conference championship will be a rotation between the three partners, with Fox hosting it next year in 2023, 2025, 2027, and 2029. CBS will host the conference championship in 2024 and 2028, and NBC will host it for just 2026. Next, we're going to go in more depth with Notre Dame. Notre Dame currently has a deal with NBC to host all of Notre Dame's home games until 2025. And they get $25 million from NBC and $10 million from the ACC due to being part of the basketball. Now, here comes the pretty tricky part for Notre Dame. If they want to renew the contract with NBC, NBC is going to want Notre Dame to schedule more Big Ten games, because NBC has a contract starting next year with the Big Ten. But, however, Notre Dame has a loose affiliation with the ACC and has agreed to play 5 ACC schools in contract with the ACC each year as a part of the deal for Notre Dame to remain in the ACC conference for basketball. They have to play 5 ACC schools each year. That's the deal that ACC made with them. They said, okay, we'll let you remain independent. We won't ask you to come to join us in football, but you're going to have to play us 5 of our members each year if you want to remain in the ACC for basketball. So, with the Big Ten not going to the ESPN, not going to be on ESPN, and ACC and along with the SEC being doubled down with ESPN, it's going to be interesting to see if Notre Dame, if they do join a conference. They don't have to, but the way the new college football playoff is going, Notre Dame is going to be forced into joining a conference if they want an automatic bid to go to this college playoff, or else they're going to be at best getting wild cards every year in the college playoff and possibly having to go on the road each and every time they make the college playoff. So it's going to be interesting whether they're going to go with the cash cow in the Big Ten or go with their friends in the ACC that have been there and had Notre Dame's back for all these years. And The reason is that Notre Dame has had a bad history with some of the Big Ten schools. They've been notoriously blackballed from the Big Ten just due to prior history and all that. If you want to know, go research it. But anyways, they still have those grudges with Notre Dame, more specifically with Michigan being the biggest player on why Notre Dame hasn't been in the Big Ten for all these years. You would think they would be in the Big Ten geographically sense wise because they're in South Bend, Indiana, and that's middle Big Ten country, or historically Big Ten country. Now we got USC and UCLA all the way out there in the West Coast on an island. But anyways, we will go to SEC next. Now the SEC, this one's pretty cut and dry. The SEC signed a new deal that will take an effect in 2024 that's worth $3 billion. The whole deal is worth $3 billion with ESPN. It's a 10-year deal, which it breaks down to $300 million a year, which is a hefty increase from what they were getting from CBS, which was $55 million a year. So the SEC is going to be rolling in the big bucks. The biggest changes you're going to see with the SEC is that the SEC Game of the Week that's been traditionally on CBS is now going to be moved to ABC. And ABC may or may not host a primetime SEC game as well, in addition to having the SEC network with ESPN. And also what it means is that CBS will lose the SEC Game of the Week and sometimes a doubleheader that week. They will no longer be a part of the SEC after 2023. So, and it's also going to affect the SEC championship. The SEC championship will move from CBS to ABC. Kind of go figure with that one. So, other than that, that's pretty cut and dry. And the last conference we're going to get into is the Pac-12. This is going to be the most speculative of the previous four, because the Pac-12 is currently negotiating a new deal, which, according to the Pac-12 officials, is expected to come out in early 2023. Now, they said that in the summer last year, but that never happened. But we're going to just take their word for it. As the Pac-12 has sent robust offers, as they quote said it, to ESPN and Amazon, the Pac-12 deal they're currently on is set to expire in 2023. So the time is ticking for Pac-12 if they want to be on the air. Because after 2023, they're not under contract. And so the time is ticking for Pac-12 to survive in this environment if they got a shot at it. After losing its biggest TV market in Los Angeles when USC and UCLA depart for the Big Ten, it is rumored that the new deal will include ESPN and Amazon. It has been rumored that Fox is not interested in renegotiating with the Pac-12. It's going to be interesting to see if they go down this route, if they actually go down this road. And it's already been shown with the NFL that making Thursday Night Football exclusively to Amazon Video or Prime Video has decreased its ratings from this year compared to last year when Thursday Night Football was on Fox. However, Amazon has come out to say they only want to broadcast premium live content, or referring to the NFL. And they don't want to broadcast bad games. As far as ESPN's perspective, they're only interested in filling in the late night television slot with the Pac-12 After Dark or the 10:30 slot. Because as part of ESPN, they have to find content to fill in, so they don't have no fill-in content with SportsCenter reruns. And so if they can get the Pac-12 re-signed, they would have a game play on Pac-12 After Dark. So the future of the Pac-12 in regards of a TV deal is up in the air at best. Now we're not going to talk about any kind of realignment rumors such as possibly Colorado, Utah, and Arizona schools moving to the Big 12, or possibly Oregon and Washington moving to the Big 10. What we will say is that if they manage to strike a deal, it has been rumored from the top officials that Oregon and Washington want uneven revenue sharing, meaning that they would command a certain percentage of the TV money that the Pac-12 gets, just based off them two brands, and in counteraction, it will cause the other brands, such as Arizona or Utah or Colorado, to get even less money than if it was even revenue sharing across the board. But the reason that Oregon and Washington wants to have uneven revenue sharing, they're basically buying their time right now. They're waiting on the Big Ten to come calling for them. So in the meantime, they want to stay with the Pac-12 to get as much money as they can from the Big 12, and it also benefits them in the long run as well with the new college playoff format, stating that the top 6 champions would get an automatic bid in the college playoff. So in hindsight, it's easier to get to the college playoff if you're one of a member of a 10 member conference versus a 16, or if you join in there, be 18 member conference. So there's some pros and cons with it now. Oregon and Washington, they're just waiting on the Big Ten to come calling. They've even submitted applications to join the Big Ten, but as far as right now, the Big Ten has said they're not interested in expanding right now. But it doesn't mean they won't expand one day in the future, meaning they may be open later on down the road, but right now they're not interested, because the more teams you add into your conference, the less money is distributed to each team, and no team is going to raise their hand at the table and say, I want less money so that we can get Oregon and Washington in, or you pick your schools. But no team is going to want to do that. They're going to want to make the most money they can. And that kind of alludes to the point back to the ACC, is these big brands like Clemson, Florida State, they're getting mad that they're only making $20-30 million at most with college playoff money and NCAA tournament money, but a school like Rutgers, Maryland, Northwestern, Vanderbilt, they're getting almost $100 million with their TV contracts. So that's kind of the motivation for them to join the SEC or the Big Ten. So I'll put all the sources to my information in the description down below. Anyways, that's going to conclude today's video. Go ahead and like the video and subscribe to the channel, as I'm trying to get to my goal of getting 1,000 subscribers. I know we could do that together. Anyways, until next time, I'm running.